Hi, welcome back to Weatherford Daze. I'm Rachel, this is Jason, and we are on week 3 of our Evil Stepmothers series.
Wicked, horrible, no good stepmothers series.
And this has been really fun. I've enjoyed it so far.
It's been different. It's been different than what we've done before, and sometimes different is good, and we always bring something to the plate. So, yeah.
And I've really enjoyed kind of the honing in on the Christian perspective, the Christian aspects in these, and talking about it from that way. So I think that's been really good.
And it's I would say it's unexpected, but not for us. But I guess what I'm saying is, you start out thinking, oh, we're talking about wicked stepmother, and then all of a sudden, the word just starts bubbling up and coming out, and I'm like, okay, let's go.
I think that's just kind of part of being a Christian. Like it infuses into everything that you interact with.
It's par for our course. I think it happens more often than not. Just comes out.
But anyway, I'm really excited about this week. This week we are dealing with Rapunzel's evil stepmother, and we debated how we were going to do it. Whether we were going to talk about the story of Rapunzel as a whole, because for Cinderella and Snow White, we kind of talked about the different iterations of those. But I think that the newest, right, version of Disney's Tangled is just, there's so much in it because they specifically made the evil stepmother so kind of
multi-layered, maybe?
Yeah, multi-layered. There was a lot. And I think that of all of the things in this story, Mother Gothel became the focus of Tangled versus Rapunzel being the focus. And I guess for the story of Rapunzel, Mother Gothel really does feature highly just because of how much a part of the story it is. Or she is.
She does, but they give.
But they gave her so much more of a backstory and everything that we decided that for this episode we'll really just focus on Tangled, the version of Mother Gothel. But just with that being said, I have been through a journey today in kind of looking into this. And I want to take you guys along the journey. Hopefully, I will be able to kind of do justice to it. But I came away with looking into all of this with a lot of questions and not a lot of solid answers. So let's see where we go. I guess we'll try to start at the beginning of my thought process.
Okay.
So I first was thinking about just the angle of the manipulation and the gaslighting that Mother Gothel represents. Because for any of these stepmothers, you have Snow White's stepmother who's motivated by vanity. You have the Cinderella stepmother who's motivated by the desire to social climb and wanting to have her daughters be kind of lifted up and in thinking that she has to put Cinderella down in that way. And then for Mother Gothel from Tangled, we see that she is motivated by simply wanting to use the magic that's in this flower to stay young. She's been using it. We have no idea how long she's been using it. But this flower gets taken by the king and the queen in order to heal the queen. And she finds out that the magic has transferred over to the daughter, the baby, because they used it while the queen was pregnant with Rapunzel. And she tries to just take a snip of the hair. So she didn't start out going, with any kind of evil intentions towards Rapunzel. She's just wanting what she had, right? And then realizes that as soon as she cuts the hair, it loses its magic. The only way that she can have access to this magic is by having access to the baby. So she kidnaps Rapunzel and takes her and keeps her. Part of her keeping her, though, is her trying to just keep safe the magic, right? She can't let Rapunzel, I guess, in some ways it's like, well, why couldn't she? Why couldn't she let Rapunzel grow up normal? Why did she, I guess there's a fear of her being discovered, that if she goes out and sees anyone else is around anyone else, that, they'll put the pieces together that she's the stolen princess. But the amount of gaslighting that happens, that you see, in the very first, the very beginning of the film, and with the song Mother Knows Best, which is just classic, like all of the things that are in there, the ways that she manipulates, that she kind of makes Rapunzel think that she's crazy, she keeps her off balance, just all of these classic gaslighting techniques that she's using in order to control and keep Rapunzel safely in the tower. It's just rather, you go, what drove her to that point? Because I think that most of the time we think of somebody that's gaslighting someone else as maybe just imbalanced, like there's some issue there. But Mother Gothel, it's like she's driven by this pure, just desperation to keep the magic that she has, right?
Yes, I think any parent, there's always something that you accept. You accept that your children are going to grow and they're going to leave you, and you hope to prepare them for that world. But what she is trying to do, Mother Gothel is trying to do, is make her afraid of that world and say, this is the safe place. Mm-hmm. But Rapunzel can see just enough outside of that window to tantalize her and go, wait, there is something more. But she says, I'm not supposed to trust in that. I'm supposed to, she has a curious nature, and she has books, so there's something that hints there's something beyond. But she just can't go after it. And that's, you can only lie to somebody so long. I mean, some of the stuff is outrageous, like, that there's monsters and there's spiders and snakes and
the plague, men with pointy teeth.
But I had always heard that word gaslighting. I'll give you a little quick thing. I've always heard that word gaslighting, and I was like, okay, we keep saying that. What is that? That sounds like something from the Victorian times or something, where they would light the gas lamps. And I found a 1940s, early 1940s movie called Gaslight. And after I watched, I went, I get it. And we'll watch it sometime if you want me to. But here's the thing about that is, you're trying to manipulate somebody by making them feel like they're going crazy, mm-hmm. or that they don't have a grip on reality, and you're their only hope with, hey, I can help you through that. When in fact what you're doing is just trying to get them to doubt their own sanity, and when everything around them is telling them that that's not the truth. And so there is a manipulation in that. It's trying to get somebody not to ask the questions, mm-hmm. and to even start doubting themselves. And ultimately that's where it doesn't quite go there with Rapunzel, spoiler. It doesn't quite go there, because she does escape. But if that were to keep going, she would probably going, maybe I'm in the wrong for wanting more.
But the thing is you see, even when she does escape, like, she basically has a mental breakdown as soon as she does, because of all of the gaslighting that's happened. It's like she wanted to leave.
Where does she have the breakdown? Because I thought she was just so excited and running around doing everything.
Oh, no, she sits there and she goes through all of this, oh, Mother will be so upset. And, like, you see her kind of bouncing from thing to thing to thing. And they make it kind of funny in the film, and just kind of part of Rapunzel's very flighty, bubbly personality. But she really does go from, like, thing to thing to thing, where she's going, I must be crazy, I'm so excited. Like, she's going from one extreme to the other.
You're doubting your own feelings.
Right, but she's processing through all this stuff of, like, I shouldn't have done this, but I really want to do this, but I shouldn't have done it. Mother's going to be mad, she goes through all of those emotions.
Right.
Immediately afterwards. And, Eugene's just kind of sitting there watching her like, what is going on? And yeah, it's you see kind of that processing, and then the longer that she is away and the more that she sees of the world and of other people, the more that it's like you see kind of the tentacles unhooking, from the brainwashing that's been happening to her whole life. And, her kind of starting to go, well, maybe Mother was wrong. Maybe she's, and you see at first it's like, well, maybe she just doesn't know. Maybe she's just mistaken. To then going, well, maybe she's deliberately been misleading me.
But I was struck by the I'm just kidding. Because she'll look in
this mirror. What do you see?
A beautiful independent woman. Oh, and you're there too. Beautiful young independent woman.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, just kidding. She does that all the time.
It's a way to really snipe at you, but then pull back and go, I was just kidding. And there are people that do that, and that just does not work. You can't just play innocent and play dumb after slashing somebody with a comment like that. And that's where you start saying, okay, wait a minute, we know she's not great. She kidnapped a baby.
See, I think that a normal interaction, like if you're actually kidding, would be to immediately follow that up with, no, you are amazing. Like, literally, like, you are the best. You would take that opportunity after maybe making a joking comment, okay, fine, but then you take that opportunity to really double down and reinforce how amazing you think that person is. And Mother Gothel doesn't do that. She just leaves it,
She sings songs to her hair. There's like parts where she's just like, talking about holding the hair. Like, so if she could cut all her hair off and get away with it, she would.
She calls her Flower. She sees her as a living embodiment of the flower. She doesn't see her as Rapunzel.
And she puts a basket over it.
Right.
Do you notice that basket gets knocked over, and that's how they notice the. But she's always like using it, doing the song, put the basket over it, hide it away, and she does the same thing with her in the tower. Hide it away in a basket. It just happens to be a 100-foot tall basket. But when your light, you hide your light under a bushel, right? It's definitely what she's doing. But there are hints that they do not have a great relationship, just seconds into introduction of how they relate.
Well, you always see Rapunzel kind of, like, she tries to say something and then she kind of gets cut down and then she just kind of cowers. And she's looking very uncertain and kind of afraid and off balance whenever Mother Gothel's around. She never is just her happy, confident self. And you very quickly see that, the only time that she really feels free is when Mother Gothel is not there.
Right.
When Mother Gothel's there, she feels off balance. She feels unsure. She's kind of scared to even ask for what she wants.
It keeps the power dynamic keeps Mother Gothel in power and keeps Rapunzel on her on her toes, and not in a good way. So.
But like I said, that was, the first thing, and where I went, obviously this is the thing that we talk about. But then I looked up on YouTube Mother Gothel just analysis, looking for what people have been saying about her, because I do know that, there was a lot of stuff that I saw several years ago after Rapunzel came out, and even, I remember seeing stuff, 5-6 years ago, a lot coming out about Mother Gothel and gaslighting and that kind of stuff. It seems like there was kind of this revival. And one of the things that I remember watching was one of the first things that came up, and it was talking about, the 11 classic signs of gaslighting. It was by Cinema Therapy.
Yeah, I like them. They're really good.
Yeah. And then, a lot of the other things that I saw, I, was a lot of the same stuff, going over the same stuff that those guys had done. Just kind of talking about what the points were of gaslighting, which that is they do an excellent job kind of explaining all of that and what it is. But something that caught me was the comments. And I started just scrolling comments. And I saw person after person after person that said, yes, I relate to this so much. I have a Mother Gothel. My mother did this. Mother-in-law, stepmother, And I saw again and again and again how many people were like, oh yes, I know a person that does this exact same behavior. And I went, really? There's that many people
they're related, yeah.
that are and again and again I saw this is the most relatable Disney character, and I went, oh, see, because I thought that the most relatable Disney villain was, like I said last week, Cinderella's the evil stepmother. I went, yeah, you can understand her, she's relatable, people have seen people that are motivated in that way. But I didn't think that Mother Gothel was going to be the one that people found the most relatable, because I went, oh, she's so villainous. There's not that many people that are truly that evil, right? That would take and deliberately twist someone else's perceptions of themselves and of reality. But no, there's a whole lot of people that are finding Mother Gothel to be the one. And I went, is that real? Is that people's perceptions? Is there just, what is it that's happened here? And that, like I said, I just started questioning. And I went, well, where does this take us then? And my first thought was, okay, well, there's something that happens as people grow up, right? As a child turns into an adult, there's a very natural process that happens. We start questioning everything that we've been taught. When we move from child, who just basically believes and understands, and accepts what you're taught by your parents, to an adult who actually goes, okay, what do I believe for myself? And that can be, all kinds of things that happen. Religion, politics, just, do I believe the same thing that my parents believe? Why? I need to understand this and have my own belief system and not just accept it because that was what I was taught. And that's a very natural and normal thing. And it's a very healthy thing, right? We all have to go through that of going, do I believe what my parents taught me to believe, or even what my teachers taught me in school, or whatever? Do I believe, what do I actually think? And a lot of times in that process, we start perceiving our parents in a different way. A lot of times we start picking up on all of the things that they did wrong. And, all of us, all of our parents did something wrong. There's always going to be something, no matter how much you loved your kids, no matter how much you tried, there's always going to be something that they're going to come back and say, you messed up here, right?
And being parents now, we realize we mess up too, just like our parents did. It's what you do with that. It's the stance you take. It's, are you just going to defend every decision you make or made? Or are you going to say, hey, yeah, I messed up, I'm sorry?
And we've all been hurt by our parents at some point or other. No matter how great your parents were, they hurt you somehow. That's something that's just common. But I think that all of us start out kind of feeling very betrayed. Because we go, this is the person that we loved and we trusted beyond everything. And now I'm seeing things that they did that were wrong that I never saw before. Or maybe you saw it for a while, but you just didn't have the ability to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times there comes a confrontation with your parents where you actually kind of throw that at them and go, hey, you did this wrong. What are you going to do about it? And different parents will respond different ways. Some parents will actually listen and acknowledge what they did. They'll apologize, they'll mend fences. Some of them will explain, and in that there's usually restitution, and you move into this adult relationship with your parents where, you can actually continue that on, and there's peace and there's joy and there's happiness, that comes from that. And some parents will absolutely shut their kids down and they won't hear it at all. And, with that, then there comes a moment of the kids having to decide, what do I do with this? Do I continue on in relationship with my parents even though they rejected my attempts to actually be heard here, to be understood, to be respected, to kind of call them on this behavior?
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of parents are just kind of going, these are my kids and they're supposed to obey me no matter what. And they don't understand that there's a change that happens as your children become adults. And all of a sudden you're being called to account for things that you didn't think you would ever have to acknowledge. Things that are in the past, things that should have been understood, maybe that should have been forgiven. Maybe you didn't think they were a big deal, but they were a big deal to your kid. So, it's hard to be told that even though you sacrificed for your kids and you did all of these things, that all that they can see is the places that you messed up.
That's a gamble. That's the gamble. You want to have your kids be independent from you. That is part of what a parent is that you teach them to survive without you.
Just have never thought through that.
But you don't want I want you to be independent of me financially, or away from and make your own life. Yeah, but you have to have the exact same beliefs as me, the exact same religion as me, all that.
But the thing
because that's how you repay me for all the work I did.
I think
that's kind of
something
backwards.
Has changed where maybe our parents' generation never had that moment where they actually talked through and sought for that adult relationship.
Ah.
And they just kind of went, yeah, it happened, they're broken, but we just continue on. Whereas I think that the younger generation is pushing for something more deep and for more understanding and more respect. And the parents aren't understanding what's happening. But the other side of that, it's like, well, there's a lot of, normalcy to having that moment of realization and stuff. There's also the side where the kids aren't able to forgive, where they go, where all they can see is the wrongs that were done to them, and they never really seek to restore that relationship. They just go, oh, well, I've now found out that my parents are horrible people, and so I'm going to just cut them off. Or maybe you don't cut them off. Maybe you just go, they're just horrible people and they'll never hear me, and you just continue on with your life. And maybe you go on a post on YouTube talking about gaslighting horrible stepmothers, and you go, oh yeah, I have one of those too.
It just happens to be your birth mom that you treat like a horrible stepmom.
And I'm kind of going, how much of this is perception or just wanting to feel like you can relate or that you understand, It's kind of like, when we talk about with autism, being autism parents, like a lot of times, especially when we first learned about what behaviors were autism and stuff, we started kind of seeing autism everywhere. And that can be, a danger. It's like, well, maybe we're just like projecting it onto other people and it's not really there. Well, when you learn about gaslighting, are you then going to start projecting it onto other people, and it's maybe, okay, well, some of the behaviors are problematic, but maybe they're not quite gaslighting? Or are we taking it too far?
Are we misperceiving? We see an evil stepmother Gothel kind of character,
Right.
and then we start taking, oh, well, that's what my parents are doing. But if you really were to watch what your parents were doing, it really was not as bad as all that.
Are we unable to actually look at the motivations?
They made me go to church on
people.
Sundays, and so they were brainwashing cultists.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? It goes. You're letting the world and maybe video and different things you've watched gaslight you into thinking, I thought I didn't have a great. It wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible. But they say yes, it was, and then you get gaslit. That's what those other people in the comments are doing too. That is not everyone's experience. That is a small
like it just
microcosm.
Can't possibly be that many people that actually have really had
there are
a Mother Gothel
millions
in a
of
person
people in the
their
world,
lives.
and these people that they are in the comments are a subsection, and they're such a tiny sliver. But
unless it's the same people commenting on video after video after video, because it wasn't just the one video that I'm scrolling through comments, seeing this common theme. I'm going through lots of different videos, and I'm seeing this common thing in all of these videos, is these comments saying, yes, I have this is the situation that I went through, this is what I've dealt with, and what I did to to cope or to get through it. Everybody's sharing their stories, and it's like, that just was kind of the thing, is I'm going, where is the truth? Is it people that are reading too much into it? Is this really a huge problem that we have in our society? I don't know. I don't know these people.
Here's the thing. You talked earlier, you mentioned privilege. I want to talk about that. Tell me what you mean by that. And I thought about it. I know.
Okay.
But while you were, I was thinking, I've read a lot of articles about young people and how the way the economy is right now, at least in the last couple of years, it's harder to actually go out and get a home. Your parents own one, but they got in while the getting was good, maybe, and they might have an older home, but they're doing well. Apartments costs are skyrocketing. People that go to these multi-year colleges are coming out not really able to get the actual job that they want, so they're not making it. So how important is it for somebody to cut off their parents so you don't have that, to even have that, the privilege that they can give you where you say, hey, I need some help, and they go, here you go.
Well, let's give a little bit of context to that, because
it's
something else that then came across my feed as I'm going through this, and I'm kind of wondering about the whole gaslighting parents and this kind of stuff, and people seeing just so many people having this common experience, and where the truth is in that. It's like, is this actually real? Is this really a big problem? Is it maybe people seeing it where it's not really there, or just feeling like they want to jump on the trend? And is it just part of the processing of growing into an adult, not understanding, not forgiving, or where's the truth in all of this? I came across an episode by Ali Beth Stuckey, who is a Christian podcaster. She does politics and just a lot of cultural topics, and she's very conservative. I tend to agree with her a lot. I disagree with her some too. So just put that out there. But she was talking about no contact culture, and she kind of had a very harsh viewpoint on it, as far as saying, just she does not like this. She sees it as a trend that's happening. It's kind of trending upwards, where more and more people are talking about having done this, and especially since 2020, apparently the amount of just people talking about it has gone up hugely, which is funny, because that's also kind of when I saw this explosion of YouTube things and, stuff, the conversation around Mother Gothel and the gaslighting and stuff was
it may have just
right
been,
around that same time. So, I saw a lot more understanding and articles and stuff happening during that time period and a lot more people talking about it. So I kind of am going, yeah, that is kind of
so
when...
why 2020? Because when you said that, I first thought about, were they I say trapped. They were trapped in a house. You can't leave with these parental figures, and you have to deal with them. And you're just like, there are a lot of divorces that happened because of COVID as well.
I think it was when a lot of society went more online.
Yeah, they did, because we couldn't reach out in person.
With people going online, there was a lot of things that just started trending, and people, kind of finding communities of places online that they related with. So, with more people going online, you get more of these things where just, people are grouping together and talking about these kinds of issues.
Right.
And something that also seems like, I could be wrong about this, but we started seeing more AI generated stuff happening as more people went online. And one of the things that I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, but one of the things that I've seen, especially in the past couple of years, happening on Facebook is people, these articles being posted, like stories that are basically just, they're clickbait. Like they'll post up the first snippet of a story and get you interested in it, and then you have to like click through the article or like look through the comments to see if somebody's posted the rest of it. And they seem like, it's somebody just telling their personal story, right? But they follow these topics and these trends. And I really do think most of it is just AI written at this point.
Maybe.
Or it's just generated to get people's interest and get their takes on it. Sometimes I've wondered, like, are these written by just like Chinese companies trying to see what people are interested in? Is it just data mining? What is it that is generating these stories, and why do they just keep following the same topics? You get a lot of people that talk about, oh, well, I came into money and then I started testing everybody around me, right? And, I found out that, my husband's family is all just wanting to use me and stuff, and they're trying to control me, and, I got this money and then I immediately went and I, figured out a way to break free from them. Or, just, there's so many different ones, but they follow these kind of, a lot of them are based around people trying to set up boundaries in their lives for other people's behavior to not be controlled. It's this idea of people learning how to break free of enslavement, whether
you're taking your power back,
right?
And taking power back feels positive, but when it's built off a false foundation.
But that's very much along the lines of the same type of thing. It's a boundary setting and a taking power back, which is what the idea of Tangled and the story of Rapunzel is all about. She was somebody who was being controlled and kept prisoner, and she figured out how to set herself free. She came to an understanding of what was happening to her and then took that back. And yes, she got some help along the way, but the story is very much her journey of realization of what the truth was. And I think that, that is something that a lot of people resonate with. So that's the kind of stories you see over and over and over again. But I don't know, that was a little bit of a bunny trail. But what Allie Beth Stuckey was saying was that, this whole no contact culture thing was, like, she had a lot of numbers in there. She was saying, like 30% of people, their reasoning for doing it was that they weren't respected. and it was all family members, right? This no contact thing. It's like your parents or your children or your siblings or whatever. And they were saying, they weren't respected, or they just had a difference of opinion. But the idea, that she was saying was that most of the time, people were just cutting contact with people that they didn't agree with, rather than it having actually been a situation of abuse. And she saw that as a really sad reflection of our culture. That, rather than having relationships with people that you are related to, you cut off contact completely just because you disagree about something. And I'm going, yeah, that is sad if that's what's going on. But her comments were just very much disagreeing from her. One of the comments was, that is very much a position of privilege that you're coming from. And I went, you know what? That kind of is a position of privilege, when somebody hasn't been hurt deeply and they just see that, as something that you should be able to handle the hurt, rather than you shouldn't have to deal with the hurt. So, but
100%, I have this feeling that the fact that this came up, it's no mistake that this kind of no contact thing started coming in with the explosion of social media. Because if you have a Twitter or you have a YouTube or whatever, I sound like an old man when I say, you have one of these Facebooks. If you have someone's comment on what you've created and you don't like it, you can block it, hide it, right? And do any of those kind of things. These are people you don't know. You can also try to do some things with your algorithm so you see less of those things. Some people don't know how to do this, but you're trying to, curate. You're curating your life. I should only deal with things that give me joy. People are seeking after joy. And if I have something that's a bummer, well, I need to not do that anymore, go near that person or be in that situation ever again, when that's part of life, is to have those ups and those downs. And to absolutely curate your life, you're treating it as if it's your feed, and you can just cut things out of that as if people don't matter. And there are genuine people who have genuine abuse. I don't mean like they believe something different than me, or they're a fan of this sport team and I don't like that sport team. I mean, like, really have been abused, and they've tried to cut people out of their life, and they have a hard time doing it, and they have to go to legal means to do so. But it really kind of downplays their pain.
I don't want us to be a society that's constantly crying wolf, right? And that feels like, in some ways, if everybody says, oh, I've experienced this, then it kind of lessens or cheapens the ones that have really, had Rapunzel treatment. It's like, when you've really been gaslighted, when you've really been, in this toxic situation, that's not okay.
That's cult mindset.
Yeah.
She's on the compound. Mother Gothel is the cult leader, a cult of one, and she's in a compound. That is so true, because she controls her behavior, her emotions, her intelligence. It's isolation.
But that's not necessarily the same thing as your parents disagree with, or you disagree with your parents, and so you don't want to be around them anymore. That's a different thing, especially when it's, politically or religiously based. It's like, are those kind of difference enough to break off a relationship with, someone, and completely cut them out of your life?
That's not the way it used to be. You used to be, somebody would say, somebody would say something about your mom, and you would come to blows. You'd meet me out back behind the gym, and you would have a fight over it, because nobody says that about my mom, but me. You may have issues with your mom, but somebody else has it, and you defend her honor. Just come on.
But if you're dealing with somebody who you've continually told, these are my boundaries, and if you, cross those boundaries, I'm not going to be able to have you around me or my kids. When kids enter into it and you're like, I've got to protect my kids from this person's behavior, and they're constantly pushing boundaries and crossing them, they won't respect me in that, then it's like, no, boundaries are important, and I really think that people should be able to have them and to set them in place. It's hard to do, especially if you want to maintain relationship with that person. If they won't respect those boundaries, what are your options? There's not a lot of good options there. So it's like, there's these extremes, there's a middle ground, there's just a lot of questions, and it's like, I don't want to just dismiss anyone's experiences out of hand. Everybody deserves to be listened to, and if they've been in a situation where they've experienced pain and frustration and they're just worn down, to be told by somebody like, when Ali Stuckey is just like, this is just sad and this is wrong behavior and we shouldn't do this, and condemning it, it's like, well, that's, an extreme. And the other thought that popped into my head was, now, why are we expecting non-Christians to behave like Christians?
Yeah.
When you talk about the position of privilege, it's like one of the things that allows Christians to be able to be long-suffering and to have that extra level of forgiveness and love and compassion for people is the Holy Spirit. Those are gifts of the Spirit, and it's like, when somebody says that's a position of privilege, Ali Beth, I'm going, yeah, she's coming from a Christian perspective of how much she can deal with. And as a Christian, you should be able to deal with more because you have the Spirit healing that brokenness inside and giving you the strength to deal with something that someone who's not a Christian doesn't have that.
Yeah.
We should be, it's like the to whom much is given, much is required. We should, as Christians, be able to turn the other cheek, to forgive, to go that extra mile, to go, yeah, okay, you're hurting and I can understand and I can forgive and I can give you these second chances because I want to show you God in me. And what He's done for me, I can then extend to you that forgiveness because I want you to be whole like I am.
Yeah.
I want you to receive that, that restoration and, because when you treat me like this, I can see the brokenness that's motivating you, because you were treated badly. Something broke you. And so I want to give you what has healed me. It's like that's the mentality of a Christian. But the world doesn't have that. If the world needs to go, I can't cope with this behavior, it's too much, I have to go no contact, then why are we judging them for that? And we all have our points of like, there's only so much we can take. And, even a Christian, there's only so much we can take before we have to go, I'm not benefiting you anymore, by allowing this behavior. It's not even where it's like about me and what what's benefiting me. It's about, am I even serving you by allowing you to treat me in this way? And, that's where it's like, okay, we're kind of flipping that script to like, how do I act in the most loving way towards you? How do I actually help you the most? And sometimes it is going to be no contact, even for a Christian.
2 points on that. 1 point, yes. I remember that even Jesus himself said that brother will turn against brother, and father will turn against, there will be families that due to, you say, what is your position on Christ? And that's going to split families up. Not necessarily in a war, but you're going to have a division. And Christ doesn't come to bring division, but if you're on the other side of what you see as Jesus, it's a big thing. The other part of that I thought about was Paul, I believe, in speaking to churches, does tell them how to handle something like that within a church. So maybe a form of that is, the church ultimately is like a body, but it's a family, and so it's a macrocosm of the microcosm of what of the family. The family's a smaller node of that. So there's a way that you can confront somebody with that, and if they continue to do those things that would then cause someone to stumble, then you have to let them go, and
you don't ever allow your children to come to harm because of what you're trying to do to help someone else. It's like there's a level of you can be long-suffering yourself, but you don't let that long-suffering harm your kids.
We don't expect our children to be as stable as we are, or to...
There's a certain level that, depending on their age, that they might be able to handle, and that you can help them process through and give them that, that safe space. But that's, you have to know your kids. You have to have a relationship with them. You don't just expect them to be as strong as you are as an adult. So, yeah. But all that being said, do I have an answer on, what the truth is of the situation? No, I don't. Because every single individual's journey is just that. It's individual, and it's a journey. And you're going to be stronger at some points in your journey than at others. I know that there's been a lot of thoughts that were in there, and this went in a completely different way than I thought it was going to go when we first wanted to talk about Mother Gothel.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
Yeah. But I think that, we kind of had the bigger, broader conversation around gaslighting, and I think that was good. I think that, in the end, Mother Gothel gets the ending that she kind of needed, that she should have had. It's like she was extending her life beyond what it should have been, and she, ends up having that magic cut off, and she turns to dust, and that was fitting. It was things reverting back to the natural course, and that was good. And Rapunzel is reunited with her actual parents. She has the chance to heal and a safe space to do that. I love the story of Tangled. I think that Disney did a really good job with that one, and with just bringing the whole conversation to the table. I think that it's probably the most deep Disney film. Would you say?
It's up there.
Yeah.
It's up there.
But our kids would highly recommend the continuing series that came out of that.
Right, but I think it probably was more about her adventures and relating to people, and not necessarily the core bit that she learns in the movie.
I think that you find out that Mother Gothel actually had a daughter.
I think so, and maybe...
And you see more about, kind of her treatment of her actual real daughter, and there's just a lot of extra in there, which our kids have really enjoyed. So.
Our girls are really extra in a good way, and so they definitely would love a series that's more extra.
Yeah, but I think that hopefully I've been able to explain all the different places that my brain went here. And
To untangle your thoughts.
yeah.
To unpack that.
Okay. And with that, I think that we will say goodbye. We'll see you guys next week. We've got something really fun planned for next week. So hopefully you guys will join us back if you made it this long in this long rambling thought exploration.
Right.
And yeah, if you have experienced or have thoughts about this topic, would love to hear. I know that a lot of my family that is watching this has dealt with stuff in varying forms, so
Yeah.
be interesting to hear any thoughts that come from this. So look forward to that, and we will see you guys next week.
See you next week.